Hello, welcome to this Apex DV tutorial. My name is Sam, and today I'll be walking us through the basics of DV and demonstrating licensing, loading files, plot creation and editing, using limits and other settings found throughout the product. Apex DV is a free data viewer utility offering basic file replay for Apex file types. You can download it through our user site at apexturbine.com/users. Upon opening DV, you will be met with this licensing panel where you can find the software license agreement as well as a few licensing options. By default, DV is free to use and unlicensed. However, we also offer a number of different licensing options for those who would like to use analysis tokens to unlock other functionality within Apex DV. I'm going to be using the license server. If you'd like more information on licensing, how it works, and inquire as to how to purchase a license, please feel free to reach out to us. Once I'm licensed, I can see that a few different options are available, including foreign file replay, removing the banners, project load and save, along with a few more plot windows that I can use in conjunction with the single pane. I'm going to apply all of these as I have enough tokens to do so and begin using the product. Next, we're going to discuss loading files and creating plots. Once DV has been correctly licensed, you can begin opening files and viewing your data. To open a file, click on Open. This will open the File Explorer. Then select the file that you would like to process and click Open. This will enable the grid area where you can create plots. This grid area can be edited using the arrows up here. You can see on screen now how those arrows all work to create plots. I've created a 4x4 grid here. I'm going to select the first grid and create my first plot. To create a plot, select the signal that you would like to view. Then select the x-axis data and the phase or trigger data if necessary, and then select your plot type from the tree down on the bottom. You can play through the data then by clicking the play button. The play speed can also be changed by going to the play speed here in the data dropdown. I'm going to go ahead and create a few more plots to help drive the concept home. First, I select my channel, then I select my plot type, and then I play the plot with the play button up in the top ribbon. This will allow me to see my data. Next, I'm going to create a Campbell plot with speed on the x-axis. So I'll be selecting the x-axis data here as NGP is my parameter. And then I go down here to Aeromechanical and click on the Campbell plot. I can go to the next page by clicking the up arrow here. And now that I'm on the second page, I'm going to edit the grid again into another 4x4 space. I can then select 4 channels at the same time and select a plot type. I'm going to come down here to Spectrum and select Envelope Plots. And as you can see, the 4 envelope plots are created at the same time. If I can play them through here, you can see the data appears on the plot. I'm now going to demonstrate plot overlays by creating another page. And now with a single plot space, I'm going to select those same 4 channels, but down at the bottom, I'm going to change the traces per plot to 4, as you can see here, and I am going to click Envelope. As you can see, now it has created all 4 traces overlaid on one plot. Next, we'll be discussing editing plots and how to manipulate plots that have already been created. To start out, you can zoom in on any plot by clicking and dragging on the plot. Then data can be selected with the left mouse button on a data peak. Clicking on Revert in the right-click menu will take you back to the default setting, and selecting Max Cursor in the right-click menu will give you the largest point at that given moment. There are also spectrum settings in the right-click menu, delete for deleting the plot on the page or all pages, inserting plots, resetting data on a given plot, exporting plots, tabulating plots, which give you a tabulated view of the data here, as well as apply options for each one of those settings in the right-click menu. Axis settings can also be changed in the control menu here. Auto and auto hold will automatically scale the plot. Auto gives you the highest value as the maximum range, and auto hold gives you the highest value as the maximum range, but does not bring the plot back down. Manual allows you to change the value however you would like. As you can see here, I've set it to 6,000. In the data tab, you can see the value of the currently selected peak. You can also set it to multi-mode to select multiple peaks at the same time. So you can see there. Then that information can be copied and pasted in this table. You can also save and save as and clear the data points that you have selected. More specific plot options are available in the right-click menu and setup panel, where you have all of the same axis settings that are available in control, along with a few other scaling options, as well as plot-specific settings. In this area, we have data collection settings as well as display modes. As you can see, I have changed the display mode to circles and have played through the file again in order for that change to take effect. Next, we'll be talking about using limits. Limits can be created using a CSV or our limits utility. In order to import limits into DV, go to File, Import, and click Limit Setup. Double-clicking on a file will open the limits. You can then click Play to get your data back into DV. As you can see, there are now limit lines on the spectrum plot, as you can see here. Right-clicking on a Campbell plot and going into the setup, and then into the Campbell tab will allow you to change the tick coloring to % limit, as you can see here. In order for the changes to take effect, click play. Now you can see if a point is approaching a limit, it will go nearer a red coloring. You can see the key up in the top right corner of the plot. And as you saw earlier, if a plot goes over limit during playback, it will turn red. You can remove limits by going back into the import settings and clicking on Remove Limits. Next, we'll talk about plot setups. This is an easy way to save out plot configurations for later use. I have a setup here that I would like to save. It includes my setup from earlier, some envelopes, a waterfall, some overlaid envelope plots, a tracking in Zmod, and some time plots. If I would like to save these, I can go up into the File menu. I can go down to Export and click on Plot Setup. I can then name it. So you can see here I've named it Plot Setup 1 and save it. Now if I were to right-click and delete all of my plots, I can return to the File menu, click Import and Plot Setup, and retrieve that plot setup. Now if I play, you can see that all of my plots from before have repopulated in the plot area. Finally, we're going to discuss some other settings available in DV to improve the overall experience of the product. First of all, up in the File menu, we have a couple of other export settings, like plot data, where you can export CSVs or image files. And then under that is the unit table, which allows the user to export unit integration, should they so desire. Next on the list, we have the Apex Limits utility, which allows the user to create limits files, as we discussed earlier. In the view settings, you can select new screens, which allows you to use DV as normal and is useful for multi-screen application and for secondary viewing. Closing and reopening any of the secondary screens will bring back any of the plots you've already created in that screen. Next up, we have Preferences, which gives the user access to a number of different visual styles and fonts. The Features submenu brings up the token manager that we discussed at the beginning of this video. The Data tab gives secondary place where you can play through the data, Pause the data, step through, and rewind. The playback speed option that we mentioned earlier is also available here. Under Setup Playback, there are a number of options to optimize DV's data playback. Up next in the Setup menu is the Devices tab. This is where the original DS data acquisition setup can be found. Each tab in this view corresponds to exactly the way that the file was written when using DS. Because this file was recorded with DS, all of this information is available. No information can be changed in this panel. Finally, we have the Help dropdown, which includes the help index, license agreement, about, and registry settings, all of which give further support and information about DV. If you have any other questions about DV or any of our other products, please feel free to reach out to me at snickel@apexturbine.com or info@apexturbine.com. I hope you found this video helpful and informative. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.